Hi friends, welcome to another reading vlog. I hope this one will be fun for y'all. I'm really excited about it, and sometimes you just have to make content for you. I was watching Jack Edwards. I don't know if you watch him, but he did this whole, recently he had a post where he, a YouTube video where he went to Poundland, which is essentially the dollar store, but in England. Duh. So he went to Poundland, which my inappropriate brain can't handle that. But anyway, so he went and he bought like 5 books for a pound, and he read them to see if Poundland has any good books. But one of the books that he bought, I have to read. Oh, he did not like it. So the book that he got, oh, it's so disappointing when they don't put the actual covers on your Kindle. Hold on. Beautiful book called Eyre Laid Bare. You can also see my window outside. I'm going to read to you what this is about. We're going to go over to the Goodreads. I'm going to read to you what this book's about. So Jack Edwards read this book. He did not like it. He made a lot of fun of it. And it sounded to me like a fantastic time. So we are getting it. And that book is called
Jane Eyre Laid Bare, the classic novel with an erotic twist,
by Eve Sinclair. But wait, that's what it says on Goodreads. But on the book cover it says Charlotte Bronte and Eve Sinclair. Poor Charlotte. This has a whopping 2.4 stars on Goodreads. And we're going to read this together. And we're going to see if I enjoy it. I spent 12 doll hairs of my own hard-earned cash on the Kindle edition of this book, just so you know. I'm a little bit mad that we don't have this at a Poundland. Poundland. Am I just immature? Poundland? I know it's their currency, but let's look at this Poundland erotic novel. Everyone is familiar with Charlotte Bronte's passionate but restrained novel, in which the plain yet spirited governess Jane Eyre falls for the arrogant Mr. Rochester. It's a novel that simmers with sexual tension, but never quite reaches the boiling point, which is to be expected. After all, the original was written in 1847. That was then, and this is now. And in Jane Eyre Laid Bare, author Eve Sinclair writes between the lines to chart the smoldering sexual chemistry between the long-suffering governess and her brooding employer. When an eager and curious Jane Eyre arrives at Thornfield Hall, her sexual desires are awakened. Who is this enigmatic Rochester, and why is she attracted to him? What are the strange yet compelling noises coming from the attic? And why does the very air she breathes feel heavy with passion? Only one thing is certain. Jane Eyre must have arrived at Thornfield, an unfulfilled and tentative woman, but she will leave a very different person. I have to fucking read this book. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to talk about it. And I'm going to stop and give you updates, because this is a spoilery reading vlog of a horrible book. This is what we do here on this channel, apparently. I hope you enjoy. I don't know how explicit this is going to be. It does say it's got an erotic twist. From what I can tell, they do have sexual encounters in various places, including on a horse. So, you know, one, there will be spoilers, so warning. Content warning, let's assume there's smutty content, so there may be mature content. So if this is not something you want to watch, you can just hop off. There's other things to watch, but I hope you guys enjoy this journey that I'm going to go on. This is going to be fun. I feel so professional with the tiny microphone. Hi guys, welcome to the first update. Well, I've listened to a little bit as I was like cleaning and waiting for some things to wind down after my patients were done. I did start Jane Eyre Laid Bare, and things are interesting. I mean, this starts not in the same place as Jane Eyre. We start in the carriage ride on the way to Thornfield, when Jane is, you know, a young 18-year-old lassie. Things were a little bit different at Lowood School than in the original. Let's see. She learned from one of her friends a way to basically relieve stress, aka masturbation. She's a little stressed out on the carriage ride, so she just takes care of herself a little bit before she gets to Thornfield. And I'm like, all right, Jane. There's this like naughty third floor at Thornfield where like there's just like weird chairs with, you know, restraints on them, and like all these pictures of like men whipping women, and like everyone's naked, and like he has a sex dungeon basically, and but not dungeon, like a sex loft, a sex attic, because it's third floor. Anyway, I got as far as, yes, I don't know what's happening. It's very late. I'm somewhere in chapter 3, I think. The whole scene where she like bewitches Rochester's horse, and like he falls and he like sprains his ankle, yada, yada, yada. That whole scene happens. She meets Mr. Rochester. She gets home. She figures out that it is Mr. Rochester, not a stranger. And then she like takes a candle, goes to bed, and she's like so hot and bothered for meeting Mr. Rochester that she, puts that candle in her special place and has a good night. Oh, and apparently at the school, there was some lady lovin' going on in the library on desks. I mean, Jane is just here for the love. I mean, love is love. So Jane is like, I don't care if you're, you know, a beautiful ginger lass or a snarly like 30-year-old man, she's here for it. And it's just very weird that like Mr. Rochester has like sex things sort of everywhere. Like even on the main floor of the house, she realizes like Adele takes her around and showing her paintings, and there's like all these kind of tamer sexy things around the more presentable areas of the house. And I'm like, this is gonna be fine. This is legitimately like 50 Shades of Grey meets Jane Eyre, and I don't hate this. I am thoroughly enjoying myself. Like, I almost kind of just want to finish it. I might read more when I get home, because it's ridiculous in all of the best ways. Girl got off on a candle. A candle. We had candle play, self-play. I mean, I guess anything's a dildo if you try hard enough. I've been up for a really long time. I'm going to bed. Well, I'm driving home and then I'm going to bed, because if I go to bed before I drive home, it's gonna be bad. Anyway, more updates later. Hello. I have some mochi. Strawberry mochi is my favorite thing, and I've been listening to more. Our little Jane is an interesting lassie. I'm only like maybe 7 chapters in now, and Rochester's here. They're going through their whole, he keeps having fireside chats with her at night, or they are having chats as they walk around the property. Don't mind Hemi, he's breathing heavily like he does every time we do one of these I rate a trashy novel so you don't have to videos. Anyway, and Mr. Rochester is giving her more details on where Adele came from, and we're getting more details about her mother than we do in the original book. The original plot of how he catches her with another man, and then he takes on this daughter of hers out of, you know, the kindness of his heart, because he actually isn't a brute, gets expanded upon. And then our lovely Jane goes to bed at night and decides that what she really wants is a threesome with Mr. Rochester and this other man. I mean, Jane's just hitting all the things. It's so steamy, my mochi is melting. I'm gonna get back to it. I also realized that not only am I spoiling Jane Eyre Laid Bare for all of you, which I know is a travesty, I'm also kind of spoiling Jane Eyre. But if you haven't read it already, shame, shame, shame. The mochi just totally melted in my hands. All right, back to reading. Okay. I don't know how many updates we're gonna get tonight, but there's every chance that I just keep reading this till I finish it, because I think My Kindle says I have, what, 2 hours and 40 something minutes till I'm done. It's 9 o'clock. I don't work tomorrow. Let's see if we finish it. But we had the famous fire scene, which of course led to some smooching. But there was this really weird interplay where he's like, you must go, Jane. And then she's like, okay. And he's like, no, but stay, Jane. And then that happens like 5 times. I'm barely exaggerating. And then it ends in them smooching until they think they hear something. And then, you know, they run away. The next day he leaves and goes off to the Ingrams. They smoochy smooch, everything's great. And then she's like really excited, but also like, I don't know, was that the right move? And then he disappears. And now she's like hearing all about from the housekeeper about how beautiful Blanche Ingram is. Freaking Blanche. Hussy. I don't know what to do for you. You had your CBD. Thank you. Anyway, so she's finding out all about how Blanche Ingram is just the hottest, most wonderful, most accomplished, beautiful singer, everything. And Jane just basically berates herself about being awful. And yeah, that's where we are. But we've had smooching. I have to say that like Jane masturbates a lot. I mean, like more power to her, but like, I mean, I guess if you don't have television, right? Like, you got more time for that. I don't know how exciting this vlog is. It's literally just like me sitting here and occasionally stopping and talking to you, but all right, so the Ingrams and all of their people are at Thornfield. That's where we are in the story. And there are some lady lovers that Jane catches smooching in a hallway and fondling and doing other things. And Jane is like, ooh, I didn't know that there really were sapphic ladies in this world. Let's see. Oh, she voyeuristically stares through a grate and watches a maid and the butler go at it. And she gets a little hot and bothered and takes care of herself. Which, honestly, I think if I was to, anyone else wants to read this, I think you should take a shot every time she masturbates. Because you'll be very drunk. Mr. Rochester is fucking with her, making her come down to dinner, but never talking to her. You know, same old, nothing new. And Jane is basically realizing that she is living in like a decadent sex palace, because I don't know why she didn't think this with like all these naked ass paintings and people whipping each other and sex chairs, but I guess she doesn't know what a sex chair is. Okay, fine. We'll give her that one. She's naive. But yeah, no. So this is gonna get interesting. What's weird is that like that tension that's in the real story where you feel like Rochester and Jane have like this thing, that's kind of missing. And the funny part about this whole premise about making Jane Eyre this like secretly wanton woman that like Rochester can awaken, the reason that Rochester likes her is because she's innocent, because Bertha was not innocent. The idea was that like Bertha was this like tainted woman and Jane was the innocent one, and that's what he wanted. So I guess this Jane's kind of innocent, but she's not that innocent. She's staring through grates watching people bump uglies. She's also, I hate that phrase, bump uglies, but I said it anyway. I don't know. And there's like these really weirdly long passages where the author decides that they're going to go in depth about something that like is like a paragraph in the original. And I'm trying to think of an example right now. The governess discussion. There's usually a governess discussion. That discussion and it is not that long in the original. And they just, for some reason she felt like that needed to go on for a while. Like, we know that Blanche doesn't like governesses. Everybody makes fun of governesses. We got it. We don't need a new version of that. Anyway, I guess we're coming up to the point where James Mason shows up and gets mauled by Bertha. So that should be exciting. am almost 50% of the way through, and I would like more action between Rochester and Jane. That's what I'm gonna say right now. They've had one reasonably passionate kiss, one peck, and Jane has spent a lot of time taking care of herself. I mean, the girl needs some looking after. But I guess she had never seen an eggplant before, so she just saw a member while spying on the butler and the maid. So maybe now that she's seen a member, she can learn how to what to do with one. I wonder if they're gonna have like weird group sex. We're gonna see. I feel like YouTube's gonna be like, please stop making these videos. They're not appropriate. I gave you a warning. I spoke too soon. Or, I should say, ask and you shall receive. Turns out, there's a lot of group sex going on when Jane leaves the drawing room. But somehow we, like, skip the whole part where, like, James Mason gets, like, attacked by Bertha, and we go straight to Jane having to go back to her aunt's house to take, you know, because she's dying. Which is funny because, like, we haven't actually talked about anything about Jane's, like, upbringing at all, so I wonder how much she's going to go into it. But, like, just kind of just, like, there's no backstory for Jane. The author clearly is assuming you've read this before. I mean, it would be a very strange book to just read without having ever read Jane Eyre, but I'm sure there's somebody who has. And there's no backstory. There's nada, nothing. Nothing's happening. And then suddenly this guy shows up and is like, well, your cousin's dead. And Jane's like, yes, I remember. I remember how mean he was to me. And then, well, and your aunt is asking for you. She is dying. Okay. Where did that come from? But I guess it would be weird to write an erotic book that starts with a bunch of kids in school and, like, typhus. Typhus isn't sexy. I'm going to keep reading. Okay. So we did get to the Richard Mason part, not James Mason. James Mason is a completely different person. I'm a little tired, so I think I'm just going to finish this chapter and go to bed. But yeah, I'm getting a little bored. I don't want to read somebody else writing Jane Eyre, which is kind of what's happening right now. I want Jane Eyre Laid Bare. And Jane Eyre is mostly just doing everything she does in the original book at this point. And I'm bored. Because it's not written by Charlotte Bronte. It is written by whatever this lady's name is. Eve Sinclair is not Charlotte Bronte. So if we're gonna do this, I'm gonna need more sexy time, unless somebody else just rewriting a book. It's a little weird. It's a little weird. I'm trying to think if there's anything interesting that has occurred that is worth saying. And no, she doesn't really, like, even have Rochester and Jane do anything. There's, like, all these weird sex things happening all over the house, and he, like, finds a way to get her alone by pretending to be the gypsy, and they still don't even, like, smoochy smooch. Like, come on, what is happening? Like, I've hit a weird lull. We're at 62%. All I've had is, like, a chaste peck and a slight makeout sesh. This is not Jane Eyre Laid Bare. This is Jane Eyre masturbates and Eve Sinclair tries to be Charlotte Bronte. Alright, I'm gonna finish this and go to bed. Well, I'm gonna finish this chapter and go to bed, because if I finish this whole book tonight, I think my brain will implode. The fun has worn off. This is unfortunate. All right, I'm stopping on chapter 18. So Jane has. I'm kind of just very curious. I'm at 71% through, and they still really haven't done anything to each other. Let's see. Jane has gone back to her aunt's house. Aunt's died, month away, blah, blah, comes back. And Rochester's still doing his whole, like, taunty thing where he's like, yeah, my wife, Mrs. Rochester, blah, blah, blah. And, like, all along, he's just he's finding it funny that she thinks that's going to be Blanche and not her. and then yada yada yada, they get married. But, or like he proposes, but like 71%, like how are you rushing the rest of this story? Is there a sequel? Like, I just feel like you've spent a really long time setting this up, which is fine because the book is really long, actually. The original, the source material. And I feel like we're just gonna like rapidly go through this. Are we gonna have the St. John part? Is she gonna end up there? Is she gonna be meandering on the moors? It's all very weird. She finds out when she goes to her aunt's that she has all this money, but it's just not clear that she has the money. That doesn't happen till way later. Some of the choices, man, they're confusing me. I was expecting smut. I wanted smut. Jack Edwards, I am disappointed in you. You sold this to me as smut, and this is mostly just a really piss poor attempt at rewriting a classic with a sprinkling of sex. I'm disappointed. I am displeased. Dear reader, I am unhappy. Do you know how many times she said, dear reader? Can we not overdo the dear reader, please? I'm getting angry now. I'm going to stop. I'm very tired. It is 11 o'clock at night. This is enough. All right. I am back. I am looking rough because I slept like last night. I should have just stayed up and read this book, but I didn't. So let's get back to it. I read the next chapter, and it is the chapter where Rochester proposes. And they seal off that proposal. They seal that proposal, not seal it off. They seal that proposal with sexy time. Which, one, super excited for sexy time. It's about freaking time. We have the sexy time. I'm 77% of the way through this book. We finally got to the bang to bang. But here's my problem. Here's the plot hole. And I'm curious to see how they're going to fix that. Or Miss Eve Sinclair is going to deal with this. In the original, when Jane finds out, virginal, sweet, loving, dare I say God-fearing Jane, finds out that Rochester has a wife. And he goes, no, it's okay. We can just go to the continent and, you can live like my wife there and nobody will know any differently. There's no social media. Like, yeah, let's go. Let's hop off to like France and we can hoe it up and it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Like maybe one day she'll die. We can do this legally. Yo, everything's good. Jane, being Jane, is like, no, I morally cannot do this. I love you, but you are married. I am not a bigamist. Yada, yada, yada. The point is that she won't do this because she ain't no hoe. She's God-fearing. If this Jane's already given it up, what's going to be this Jane's excuse? Or does this Jane say, fuck it, let's go to France and pretend we're married and just have all the sexy time? I know Hemi. It's just... Not even Hemi can believe this. So I don't know if this is making any sense, what I'm saying. I'm delirious. But I feel like we have a fatal flaw if we're going to follow canon here. Because there's no reason for Jane to say, I don't want to go be your hoe, if she's already happy to give it up. Or maybe there is. Maybe I'm being a little puritanical. I am an American. We've been known to be Puritans. Let's get back to it. We are now at 87%, and I still don't understand how this book's going to progress because, first of all, hilarious is having a moment. So Rochester has to like teach her all the sexual ways, and so all of the random hints to naughtiness throughout the house, like the third floor sex room and all the naughty paintings and things. There's a little bit more discussion about them, including some naughty books that get brought out, and Jane gets confirmed that like threesomes exist. Rochester finds out how much Jane actually enjoys the sapphic side of things. Jane actually utters the phrase dominatrix. She learns what a dominatrix is. Just thinking, what would my 10th grade English teacher say to this book? But But there's like 10% left and they're still not to the wedding. They are still not at the scene. I'm sorry, there's like there's 13% of this book left and they haven't gotten to the scene where she finds out Rochester's already married. What the hell are they going to do? Is there a sequel to this? Lord help me if there's a sequel and I have to do more of this. We have to keep reading so that I can figure out how this is supposed to end. Maybe she does just go, oops. Do we get an alternate ending? Does Bertha just die? Maybe it's not Bertha. Maybe. I have so many questions right now. Also, I'm really hoping that this is entertaining for anybody else and not just me. This is so like, I think this lady read 50 Shades of Grey, and I also think that she had recently like watched a Jane Eyre adaptation, and so then she thought, you know, it would be great if I made 50 Shades of Jane Eyre, because like that's basically what this is. If Jane Eyre becomes a dominatrix, I'm going to die, and I don't know if it's going to be a happy death, but it's going to be death. R.I.P. Alyssa. If Jane Eyre turns into a dominatrix, I'm okay with her being sapphic. That's fine. I'm okay with her wanting threesomes. You go, girl. Hoe it up. But Jane Eyre, the dominatrix, is too far for me. It's just too far. So we finished this. I see what you did there, Miss Sinclair. I see what you did there. We are subverting the story. We are subverting the narrative. So how did we get around, like, most of the tail end of this story? Well, my dear watchers, I'm trying to mimic dear reader. There is no dear reader. Well, dear reader. Dear subscriber, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Shameless plug. Miss Bertha is a dominatrix. And little Mr. Dickie Mason and even Mr. Rochester, well, they're just her subs. And apparently Bertha did want Jane, so this whole thing was set up so that Bertha could get Jane. But Rochester just decided that he fell in love with her and was trying to whisk her away. And Jane said, no, I am not your hoe, and I don't trust you. And screw you, sir. I am leaving. Dear reader, she left him. I mean, I don't know if that's the modern day feminist I have self-respect storyline that I think the author was intending it to be, since Jane Eyre actually herself has more self-respect than this Jane Eyre does throughout most of the story as it's written. But I'm glad to see her getting there at the end. She spends a long time in this little Jane Eyre Laid Bare second guessing her worth, which I don't feel like Jane Eyre does. That's why she leaves. She second guesses the likelihood of Rochester wanting to marry her simply out of status, but she understands her worth as a human being and that she deserves respect, and Rochester gives her that and treats her as an equal. This Rochester really fucks with her a lot, plays a lot of weird games with her until he gets her in the bedroom, and then attempts to, I don't know, run away with her from Bertha the dominatrix, but it doesn't seem like he has much of a spine. This is a very weird book. It's very weird. I'm a little upset that I spent 12 doll hairs on this ebook, but I'm glad that there isn't a sequel because I would not be reading it if there was one. Okay, I would have read it, but I wouldn't have been happy about it. Anyway, I'm going to go to bed and I'm going to wrap up do an outro and all of that for this tomorrow when I have better lighting and I don't look like absolute garbage, and we can break down this book a little bit more in summary. Hopefully this isn't a terrible experience for everybody. I'm sorry there's no B-roll, but how exciting is it to watch me read on a Kindle? I think I'm just gonna I just got this in an unplugged unboxing, which will probably be posted before this, so you'll see this. This is this beautiful Song of Achilles tumbler, travel glass tumbler, and we're just gonna go boop makeshift mic. Look at me. Let's put that right down here. I'm a flipping genius. Anyway, okay, let us wrap up this reading vlog of
Jane Eyre Laid Bare.
I have my laptop because your girl made some notes. Okay? Like, I have thoughts on this book. Let's get into my thoughts. Right off the bat, let's just talk about the writing. Not great. Wasn't that great. However, don't really care. I'm not going to hold a lot against that. That much against her, because I didn't read this because I thought there was going to be great literary, writing, prose, amazing statements that just moved me. That's when you read Jane Eyre.
You read Jane Eyre Laid Bare?
Because it's called an erotic retelling. Now, here's the problem. The sex scenes are almost non-existent and are not good. There are so many better written erotic books than this. There are so many better sexy romances that are better. And frankly, if you're going to use the title erotica, I need better sex. Essentially, the sex scenes were like really tame. They were like lightly smutty with like a sprinkling of S&M. And mostly the S&M was like disgust. It was like sometimes Mr. Rochester likes to tie someone down, or like, ooh, maybe next time I'll use this on you. And like, but that, it didn't exist. I don't think the author is well versed in like kinky sex is what I came to realize. I think that she is more vanilla, which is fine. Vanilla sex is great. Even reading vanilla sex is great. You could make, my phone storage is full and it's yelling at me. You can make sex scenes that are vanilla, that are really, really interesting, sexy, engaging. You can do that. You can make some really, really wonderful vanilla books that aren't necessarily erotica. They are just romance novels or retellings. And I just don't think this is erotica. I'm sorry, it's not erotica. Don't tell me it's erotica. It is like, and if it is, it's erotica light. Mislabeled. 1. 2. Jane is so insecure yet weirdly sexually liberated. Like, it's very weird. Like, she's like cool hooking up with other chicks, great. She is like all into like self-love and masturbation, also great. All these things are great. She's got no qualms having sex with Mr. Rochester. All these things, fantastic. But then she's also like, her inner self-talk is so insecure and awful, and she's so like, I don't, it just seems something like that didn't make sense. Like, she can't be like innocent and weirdly sexually liberating. I don't know. It was something was so off about that juxtaposition in my brain. Maybe it's just a me thing. I just felt like canon Jane Eyre is actually kind of confident. Like, she understands her place, one, in society, and two, she is confident in what she believes and how she thinks. Like, she has worked hard to be Jane Eyre and to get where she is, and she has morals, and she has all this stuff, and Jane Eyre holds fast to that. And this Jane Eyre is like wishy-washy, all over the place. Like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like if she was canon Jane Eyre, she would be this like liberated, sexy bitch. Like, she would come in and she would be like, yeah, I like ladies, and I like men, and I like sex, and I like pleasure, and I like these things, and like, yes, Mr. Rochester, show me more things. Do you know what I mean? Like, she would want that lesson for Mr. Rochester. Like, he would open up a new avenue of sex to her, and that's what I feel like. I have tiny hands. That's, I don't know. So I just feel like she went too far away from canon and it got too muddled. Don't like it. Also, talking about canon, I just feel like this Mr. Rochester is a lot more like gaslighty than original Mr. Rochester. Original Mr. Rochester is an asshole because he's mad because he gets tricked into this marriage with Bertha, and now he meets this really good, wholesome, wonderful woman that he likes and loves and wants, and he can't have her because he has this woman that he's been strapped to and was tricked into marrying by his horrible family. So he is dark and broody and upset, but he's not necessarily like gaslighty. He does kind of mess with her a little bit in the scene where he messes with her a little bit with Blanche Ingram and letting Jane think that maybe he's not going to marry her, but it's not the same as in this book. In this book, it's like every chance he gets, this Mr. Rochester is gaslighting Jane, and it is so unnerving. Like, it's unnecessary to the plot, and it makes me feel like you didn't understand Jane Eyre to begin with when you were writing this retelling. That bothered me. 2, can you tell this is a 1-star review? 2, that's not even 2, like 9. Other problem, I feel like making Bertha a dom was a little bit of a weird choice, but like, all right, with all the other things, I'll let you have that one, but it seems a little weird to me, because Mr. Rochester he's worried that like Bertha being a dom is going to ruin his reputation, but then he also has like sex parties in his house, and all of his friends are like sexual deviants for like the time, you know, like he's got like lesbians who come over and like all these people that are into S&M, and he's got like a 3rd floor sex dungeon, and like, why does he care? Why do you care that Bertha's a dom? Like, clearly you don't care. All of your friends don't care. What are you worried about? I just think Mr. Rochester doesn't like being a submissive is the problem. It isn't that she is this sexually liberated dom. It's that he is this submissive man, and I think that's his problem. And you know what, dude? Shut up. I don't care. So that's why I feel like it's weird that you made her a dom, because it just makes him, you combine that with the gaslighting, and he just makes Mr. Rochester an even worse person, because then he just wants Jane Eyre because he feels like he can be the dom to Jane. I feel like you misread Jane Eyre. I 100% feel like you misread it, author, whatever your name is, Eve Sinclair. I feel like you don't understand Jane Eyre as a book. And finally, it's just not well written. I think I said that in the beginning. There's a lot of like random tangents. It took way too long for the characters to have sex. It needed more of that to be erotica. I didn't enjoy. The only thing I do like is that at the end of the day, Jane leaves. She never comes back. That's it. And she goes and makes her own life. So thank God, because this Mr. Rochester sucks. Old Mr. Rochester had a lot of issues. He had baggage, man. Canon Mr. Rochester has baggage. He needs to work through things. Jane Eyre has morals and other things. Jane Eyre needed to be her own woman and be able to stand on her own 2 feet. She was not going to be his... She was not going to be his anything. She was going to be herself. And when she wanted to, she came back to him on her own terms. She ultimately has power, and oh, okay, I'm angry. I'm going to link down below this really great, I think it's John Green does these, one of the Green brothers does these like shorts about books, and it's why like Jane Eyre is actually a really good book. And I'm going to leave it down below for anybody who doesn't like Jane Eyre, because I know there's lots of people who don't, and I'm still on a mission to make more people appreciate Jane Eyre. I think that it's a fantastic book. Fuck Wuthering Heights. Jane Eyre is the best. I have to read Tenant of Wildfield Hall so I can go Bronte to Bronte, but so far in the Bronte to Bronte wars, Bronte wars, Jane Eyre is superior. That is my reading vlog. I don't know if this was enjoyable for anybody or if it's just me making a video so that I can yell about something I care about. Anywho, thank you guys so much for watching this. If you've enjoyed this, leave a comment down below saying how you feel about Jane Eyre, and I will join you guys in the discussion, and I will continue to try to convert everybody who dislikes Jane Eyre. I am on a mission, but otherwise, I thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy these random reading vlogs and you have suggestions for random books for me to read that I might find infuriating or may make a good vlog. Please leave that down below as well. Otherwise, I will see you guys in my next video, whatever it may be, because it's my channel and I can do whatever I want. Thank you. Bye.
So just sit with me, talking to the night until the morning, building chemistry.